Morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when this video finds you. I just want to say I'm glad to be back. Pretty sure none of you know that at the beginning of this year, I took a spill and ended up losing all control of all body functions. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't feed myself, and couldn't use my hands and arms. And so I ended up in a hospital for almost 2 months. And still in a recovery mode. I'm not telling you that for sympathy. I just mention that because life happens to all of us. And the key is to ask yourself, how do you respond when life kicks you in the throat? That's the key. And 2022 has been a bit rough. I'm not going to sit there and lie. I entered a hospital on January 8th and wasn't a hospital I had ever been to before. But because of all the overflow, because of the cases that they said they had, the paramedics said that was the only hospital accepting patients at the time. And that just kind of goes to show you how bad or off I was, because I had never been in an ambulance my entire life. And so I entered the hospital January 8th. My mother was already in that hospital when I arrived. She passed on January 11th. On January 14th, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, entered that same hospital, and he passed on January 23rd. And so life is going to happen. And I remember when I started out on the first floor after the first two surgeries, and then they sent me up to the second floor, and then they told me I needed more care, so they sent me up to the third floor. And so after, I don't remember exactly how long I was on the third floor, but I was up there about 2-3 weeks, and they said, well, you've healed to the point where we can send you back down to the second floor where you don't need as much care. And I won't even get into all that transpired once they sent me back to the second floor, but I will mention this. Two nurses on separate occasions that had dealt with me when I was on the second floor the first time, like I said, two separate occasions. When they came in my room, they said, Mr. Jones, you back? And I said, well, yeah. I didn't think you were going to make it. I mean, what kind of bedside manner is that for our health professionals to have? And I'm not telling you this for any type of sympathy. I'm just saying life happens to each one of us. And it's going to keep happening to one of us. And how we respond is the key. I mean, looking at, I think right now, I think the NBA playoffs are going. I don't even know anymore. I hardly watch sports anymore. I'll catch some highlights on YouTube or something, but that's about it. But most people are spectators in their own lives, watching others chase their dreams. Now, I want you to think about this. 20,000 people in a stadium. I'm just talking about in a stadium. I don't know how many millions watch it on television, but 20,000 people go to a stadium to watch 10 basketball players chase their dreams. And then when we think about football, 60,000 people cram into a stadium to watch 22 men chase their dreams. Now, do you want to be an ordinary person who chases your dreams, or do you want to be one who wishes you had? I mean, that's a question only you can answer. One of the biggest excuses I've heard people give when you ask them about their dreams, or if their dreams are important to them, is they don't have enough time. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. That means that dream is not important enough. Amazingly, the person who says he or she doesn't have time can be found at happy hour a couple of times a week, and other times they can be found sitting in front of the television. They spend a great majority of their day helping a boss fulfill his or her dream, and then they come home tired from something that would not serve their own interest long term. And your job won't serve your interest long term. I'm not putting jobs down, but ask yourself, how many jobs have you had in the last 10 or 15 years if you've been working that long? I mean, it's not long term. anything can happen. I've been in companies where other companies coming in bought them out, and hey, we're not keeping all of you. We're keeping some of you. Things like that. I've been on jobs where, hey, we've lost all of these accounts, but we still want you to work for us. And so, things happen. I've been in a situation where another guy, my boss, came in, and ironically, it was a boss I trained, and he hired his best friend, and the best friend ended up going through some situations, and so he started squeezing me out. And so, you don't have any control in those situations. So you're not working in your interest long term as long as you're not serving your own interests and doing something for yourself and your family. But any excuse would do if you're lazy mentally. There was a guy who was cutting his yard one day and his lawnmower stopped on him. And he went to his next door neighbor and asked if he could use his lawnmower, and the neighbor said no, because my wife is cooking chicken. And the guy actually said, "Man, what does your wife cooking chicken have to do with me borrowing your lawnmower?" And the neighbor replied, "Nothing. But if I don't want you to use my lawnmower, one excuse is just as good as the next." Now, that's what it's like when I hear people tell me they don't have time to go after their dreams. So many people have made living a settled for life a habit. I was at a church once. Me and my wife don't attend this church anymore, but we were, regular attendees at this church, and the pastor did a message basically telling everyone to just be happy where they are. Well, in theory, that sounds good. But if the world is in a constant state of change, we also have to change. Stop comparing yourself to mediocrity. Now, let me ask a question. If you had $2 million in the bank and you know that you only had 5 years to live, would you change anything about your life? The greatest risk in most people's lives is they don't risk anything. Stop living to work and start working to live, because we are so busy earning a living to pay bills that enjoying life on a large scale constantly evades us. Talk to you next time.